it actually means for the continent, or does it? You know, we're talking about that it's important. What does it do? What does it mean for Kenya? If Kenya is actually, or the person from Kenya sits in that position. Ken, I know you had a question, even as we get to that. What does it mean if a Kenyan is sitting in the position of the AUC chair? What does that mean? Does it raise the profile of the country? Does it make now Kenya more respected on the continent?
Before I even ask that question, I'd like to bring to your attention, gentlemen, the opinion page of all the newspapers today. And it's all about what happened yesterday. This, as Standard puts it, unleashing Raila Odinga. So the cartoonists have captured this as good riddance for President William Ruto. And my question this morning is, has Raila Odinga once again used this to sort out his 2027 political problem? Before we even go to what this brings to Kenya or means.
No, before answering that, I want to discount something, the conception we have in this country about opposition. Because we are just saying that, Raila is being, good renders because supposed to be in the opposition. Raila was in the opposition before multi-party, before 1992. After that, Raila has been in every government in Kenya since that time. So the idea of the opposition has always come from. Now, this is the opposition, the way you see it, like in the US, when the Democratic Party loses the election of the Republican, they stay there and they wait for the next election. They don't join government in any form. So in Kenya, our concept of opposition is like one of a prison, where we are all fighting who is going to be the chief prison warder. But not somebody is supposed to break the prison walls so that everybody is free. Now, because we are fighting to be who is going to be the chief warden, it doesn't matter whether you're in the government or you are not, because you're not going to make any difference. Now, to address your question, because you're asking whether it's good riddance, or whether Raila is setting the stage for 2022. I actually don't think so.
If Ruto is sorting out his political problem in 2027,
I don't think that will sort the problem if Raila goes over there, because Ruto's problem is not Raila Odinga. Ruto's problem is the Kenyan economy. If you don't sort out the Kenyan economy, you can send Raila to America, you can send them to AU. It's not going to make any difference on how the 2027 works out. You see, that idea of tribal positioning, okay, is gone. It's absolutely gone. Because we have this Kebagan generation, the generation you see, and I'm calling it the Kebagan generation, because these are the most educated Kenyans ever. They came, access free education from Mwai Kibaki, 100% transition from primary to secondary, Mwai Kibaki, expansion of university, and the introduction of the parallel program, meaning 99% of these youngsters access university education. These people are tribal. When they tell you they are tribalists, they actually mean it. So when you dissolve the tribe, it's irrelevant whether Raila goes or you think Ruto will inherit Raila as a constituency. Okay. This time is a totally different ballgame. William Ruto need to understand his problem if he is going to seek re-election 2027. His problem is the economy.
There's another
Raila Odinga.
There's another perspective. Mr. Raila said that he's exporting top talent to join the Kenya Kwanza cabinet. So he sent a number of his party leaders to join the administration. And then there was a mandamano. There were the protests all over the country. Some folks were interviewed in Kisumu because there were no protests. They said, why should we do the mandamano if Raila has sent his people to the administration? Sai sasa tuko serikali, patia Raila muda na rais muda wafanye kazi yao. So in as much as we may want to take comfort in the theoretical aspects that tribalism in Kenya has been dismantled, maybe it's to a very small percentage. Because soon after these gentlemen and a lady joined the administration, those parts of his powerful supporters indicated, we are now going to give you time. President Ruto is right now planning to visit parts of Nyanza province, where I come from, and understand everybody is rolling out a red carpet,
yes,
simply because of Mr. Raila Odinga. If Raila Odinga today decides at the flick of his fingers to change his position, those red carpets will be rolled back. So in theory, there's no tribalism in Kenya right from 1963. People vote with their selfish interest in mind. But even the middle class in Kenya, when you approach elections, they recline to their tribal cocoons. And this is something that President Museveni spoke about yesterday, that what are you going to benefit from your tribe? But you notice all the powerful political persons in Kenya, before you rise to the national table, first of all, you have to be a tribal chief and a tribal god. Yeah, you mobilize your people, and you hear people talking of Mulima or Murima, all these kind of things, because people know that in Kenya, most of the time is about your second name. Even look at the political party formation.
You say this as though what you're saying is a bad thing.
No, I'm just trying to push back on what professors indicated, that from the next election, it's just going to be
dynamics change.
Yeah, the variables have changed, and also about the economy. Even when the economy is bleeding, when the rubber is meeting the road, people go back to their tribal cocoons or cocaines.
I think
is that what the professor actually said?
No, that's not what I said.
That's not what he said.
But also Wanamukwe is a way of here. You are not being a good student of history. Okay. You have just forgotten the history of yesterday. William Ruto comes here with an Azola narrative, which transcends the tribe, and he conducts an election like 1963 without involving the tribe. So it's not true that we are eternally tied to our tribe. You see, the fact that Njom became the minister, that child in Mombasa who didn't have a job, that child still does not have a job. That family that could not put food on the table, they still cannot put the food on the people are not stupid. They have woken up. Trust in me. Kenyans have woken up. They know that when you get the job, it's for you and your family. Okay? If you can work for us and change the economy and put the money in my pocket, then I'm for you. So Ruto proved that the tribe is irrelevant in an election if you have a cross-cutting theme that you zero to the Kenyans. It will dissolve the tribe. Ruto dissolved the tribe in the last election.
Just allow me to push back. It's important to look at the substance and then to look at the form. If you analyze the voting patterns for the last elections, how come the president didn't get, President Ruto did not get, say, 50% of the Luo votes? Because if people are just voting on philosophies, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, whether you're talking about inflation, the jobs created, like the conversation we see in the US, how come even for instance, how come he decided to elect, or rather select, the way they say, the running mate from, say, Central Province, and not Kisii or not Giriama, if the only consideration was about economics and it was about Pesa Mfukoni? Everything we are discussing here, in theory, there's no tribalism in Kenya. All of us look at inflation and the jobs are created. But when you look at the substance of a form,
I'd like to answer you on that one. William Ruto didn't have to select Gachagua as a running mate to win the vote of the Mount Kenya region. He didn't have.
Really?
He had made himself a brand, okay, with the Azola narrative. He had made himself a brand. So I don't think he got the Mount Kenya vote because Gachagua was in that ticket. Most people who voted for William Ruto across this country, they voted because for the first time in the history of Kenya, they saw in him someone who can address their personal problems, which was, from 1963, we have been manufacturing poverty. Okay? We have manufactured the poverty. From 1963, we never had a Kenyan government. We only had an extension of the colonial state. You see, in government has its own consciousness, just like an individual. So the consciousness of the government of Kenya has been exploitative. There has been a government for exploiting Kenyans. So Kibaki comes and briefly gives us a Kenyan government. We saw it in Kibaki. And then Uhuru comes and goes back to exploitation. So people in Ruto, when he talked about uplifting the life of these Mama Mboga, and this, people saw a president who is going to be a Kenyan, maybe Kibaki style or better than Kibaki. I mean, they went for that and they forgot the tribe.
How many votes did Mr. Raila Odinga get from central Kenya?
That one.
Well,
we are assuming that they vote
marketed himself very well. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, how many votes did President Ruto get from Luo Nyanza?
I assume the same answer that Prof gave would be the same thing here. But if we were rooting this conversation and just bring it back to where we are today and looking at the reasons as to why we're now having a conversation of putting Raila Odinga at that seat on a continental level and what it means for Kenya today. And I'm still coming back to that question. What does it mean?
Actually, it does mean a lot, trust me, because that is the executing agency for AU, and there is a lot of planning going on at the commission.
Is there?
Yes, there's quite a bit of developmental planning going on. You know, there is track roads, which are supposed to traverse the continent. Infrastructure projects, sometimes they are planned there, which connect the states. Trains, okay? We are not managing our resources very well as a continent. There is too much of exploitation by the foreigners. Raila Odinga with his Pan-Africans, he could put his foot down there and develop a continental-wide policy, which now also would include quite a bit of include Kenya. But also some project which come to AU, I don't want to say that, but I guess I'm just going to say it. Being there could throw them to Kenya. So and
that is where we are.
So there's some benefit for a Kenyan holding that position. Mukua saying that we are not well represented in international bodies. The reason for that is because we don't have our people, a lot of our people in the international bodies.
That's destabilize what the AU is about in the very first place. Because if we look at the origins of, and it was essentially the OAU, which is the Organization for African Unity, right? Before then, it now morphed into what it is today. And there are many, very many adjectives that have been used to describe the AU. One of them, which I myself have used on occasion, toothless, powerless, in terms of what it's been able to do to actually bring together African states and get them to move as one unified body. I don't know that since the 60s when, Resti saw Gaddafi, and you can say whatever you want, had an idea. And he said, you know what? We can actually probably forge on better together because we have the resources, we have the numbers, we have the people. Today, when we look at the AU, are we seeing that has actually been done? And it is very important that we ask the question, because if you're looking at it from a Kenyan perspective, are you sending a man to the AU? He could win, he may not win, but are you sending a man to an organization who for the last 20 years, in many opinion, have actually not been able to bring forth the tenets of African unity that it was originally designed to do?
President Kagame was in charge of, he was given the responsibility by his peers to come up with reforms, to reform the institution. So a number of proposals were made. But what the committee found out, which did not even need to do without any research, that as constituted today, the African Union is inefficient and it's ineffective. And he said that the only thing they do is clerical duties. Because they don't have financial autonomy, they have to rely on contributions, which most of the time are voluntary, or you wait for China or the US to give you resources. And then number two, even when you are the chairman of the Africa Union Commission, you still don't have absolute powers, for lack of a better word, to appoint your staff. The member states will determine who is going to be your deputy, who are going to be the commissioners, who are going to be the directors. So you can't even hold them accountable. So if the reforms as initiated by President Kagame and right now with President Ruto, if they are not effected, Mr. Raila Odinga will have to rely on his persuasion skills for anything to happen. And unlike, say, in the European Union, where there is a bit of autonomy, financial, operational, for Mr. Raila Odinga, even at some stage, he may not have a budget for his international travel if there are no member contributions and if the development partners do not come on board. And while doing research for the show, the figures are just amazing. For instance, the European Union, with their member states, about 27, they've got 32,000 staffers full-time, and that is excluding people on short-term contracts. While the African Union, taking care of 55 countries, has got 1,720 as the beginning of the year, and most of them are on short-term contracts. So they go to meetings, they prepare amazing reports, but those reports have to wait for validation and direction by the presidents, and these presidents do not want to give African Union any power. Now, if you compare to the European Union, their contributions are made, every country contributes based on a proportional wealth of the nation. So it's an income determined by proportional wealth. And then the European Union levies custom duties for imports from outside the EU, and then a bit of VAT from all the member states. So actually, they've got some financial resources. The same situation does not obtain for Africa Union.
How long is this tenure that we've been talking about?
It is 4 years. Renewable ones. But I want to say this. I think, you are really right, because we never really had a strong chair of that commission. And I think Raila is fairly strong. I think given Raila is independent, you see, institutions are changed by people who are in them. It is the people who change the institutions. So if you get somebody, Raila is fairly an independent-minded person. And I actually think he can be a perfect Pan-African if he enters there. If he were to enter, he could change all these dynamics. You see, our problem is we don't have Africans as presidents. Okay? We have all these Muzungu lackeys. Some of them selected by the Muzungu. Because when you get an African like this young man from Burkina Faso, and you make him the chairman of AU, things will move. Yeah. You will make people even contribute because they can see now what they are doing. They can be inspired. You understand? So if Raila goes there, he can become a real Pan-Africanist, this man, and change the African Union and probably move them towards proper unity because this continent is worthy. We just allow ourselves to be used by the Muzungu and even to the Muzungu select our leaders. So for me, I think Kenya need to do everything it has to get Raila there.
Okay. There's something that a question I want to pose to Professor. Human beings react on two things, the pain or a pleasure principle. Now, tell me what pain or pleasure the chairman of the African Union Commission can inject to African heads of state and governments to follow a particular direction.
No, you don't need pain or pleasure. What you need is persuasive skills.
Yeah, but persuasion can be painful or pleasure.
Is ability to explain the position, to explain our position. You see, Raila talked about our gold, he talked about our minerals, he talked about all this world being squandered as it is right now. So if he can convince them it is in our best interest, okay, I saw a huge, I think you people have seen in the media, a 28-kilometer Chinese lorry is carrying sand from Zimbabwe. It's not sand they are carrying. It's minerals they are taking to China. So if Raila is able to make the African Union pass resolutions that all these things are processed within the continent, and he can do it, you see, Raila has the force. You can't compare him with Mohamed Faki. Mohamed Faki maybe was just a diplomat. Yeah? Raila has a very forceful character, which can remake the African Union. You know, our own have been chaotic, Matato, if you remember. But one person came and made a difference, Michoki, even though, of course, we are back to where he was. So it is individuals who make institutions. So Raila could be the historical moment where he comes and he changes all what you are saying overnight. And we become Africans and we start controlling our resources. And there's shortages, resource poverty that you are saying becomes a thing of the past.
Yeah, then you did also ask a question that I didn't get a chance to make my contribution.
Yes, please.
That what does it mean for Kenya? I'll go to India. At some stage, the president of the World Bank is said to be Indian. The Prime Minister of India is said to be Indian. And at some stage, the UK Prime Minister was Indian. Now, just imagine during international meetings, you've got 3 powerful personalities with the same sort of DNA.
Yeah.
Now, this is what we need for Kenya. We need to go all over the world, and so that when Raila Odinga is the chairman of the African Union Commission is going for a meeting, you have another Kenyan in a senior role and another Kenyan in a senior role, so that we now take decisions which are sensitive to our interests as Kenyans.
Okay, can I ask? Sorry, Sisi. I want to ask these 2 gentlemen if they will stay for further breakfast.
Please go ahead.
Can we keep you till 10 o'clock?
Yeah,
Let's
can.
continue, because I think the conversation still continue. And Siti will even give you the problem again. How about that for a good treat?
Yes.
Right?
The same one or a different one?
Well, I don't know. It's up to him. But today's proverb, and I know Siti's question is coming, and so we're going to start with that at top of the hour, because we're heading quickly towards 9 o'clock. The conversations continue. There's still a lot on how this then does affect what happens within the country. It'll continue. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.